Welcome back to HudRod Automotive, and today we're taking a little look around my high mileage Kawasaki Versys 650, and hopefully we can also answer the question whether high mileage bikes are actually worth it. So this is a Kawasaki Versys 650 from 2010, the second generation of this cyclopsy looking one. And what this has is a 650 parallel twin, quite your normal basic bike. It's called a Versys. It's meant to be versatile. That 650 gives you around 60 horsepower. It gets decent economy. It's nice and comfortable, and it's kind of your basic standard, almost adventure bike. It's not really an adventure bike. It's more of a touring, sports tourer, do everything bike. That's what the whole Versys is all about. Now this one isn't brand new, quite far from. And there are a couple of things that we're going to go over. Let's start with the front. So what's quite nice about the Versys is that it has got a nice upright seating position. It's a nice comfy bike, and actually as standard they come with upside down suspension with a decent amount of travel there, and that is quite nice because it again makes it, like the name, versatile. However, on mine it's 48,000 miles now, or 49,000 miles. I got it about 45. And it needed brake discs. So as you can see, I've got EBC brake discs on here. They cost me quite a fair bit. I think with them, with the pads and the rebuild kit, everything cost me about 400 quid. Now that's the first downside, I would say, with a high mileage bike. I will go over everything a little bit later, but that's 400 quid because you have to replace something like a brake disc, which doesn't usually have to be replaced on bikes. Also up at the front end, talking about this suspension, I've also had to rebuild that because that has new fork seals in it twice. The first ones were an aftermarket one and they started leaking straight away, so not great. And then we can move round to the rest of the bike. It doesn't end there. So this 650 in particular, the engine's actually completely solid, to be fair. It's not doing too much, it's just kind of plodding along, makes a couple of funny noises, but I'll just kind of get on with it. Doesn't seem to be exiting too well. That seems to be overfueling just a little bit. Not sure why, I can't really tell you. Probably just the mileage. The throttle is okay. The clutch is a little bit stiff, shall I say. Again, probably just a part of the high mileage. But the engine itself, from a performance standpoint, is actually surprisingly good. This engine, I would say, just on the road, is arguably quite a bit better than a 4-cylinder 650, which is what I had before, which is what we did the review on before. It's got quite a bit of torque, and it really can, if you want to, it can lift that front wheel up. So it's actually quite a fun engine. It's got a lot of usable power on the road, which I've actually quite appreciated. The only thing is, it's a bit dull. It is extremely dull. And I'd say that's the biggest drawback with this bike, is it is a bit dull. Moving further on, come around to the dash here. I lean the bike over a little bit. So, as a Kawasaki, it's quite nice here, but it is definitely showing some bits are a little bit cheaper than others. We've still got an old analog dash, which is quite nice. The TFT is it's okay. I mean, it doesn't show you much. Doesn't show you any MPG or anything like that. Just shows you information that you need to know. The switch gear is all a little bit worn out. I mean, it has done a fair few miles, to be fair to it, but I had to replace the grips as well on this one. But overall, the dash just kind of basic, just does what it needs to do. So the Versys actually quite impressed me. I mean, I would say it is a dull bike. You can make it do things that not necessarily it was designed to do, let's say. However, using it as a normal bike is really pleasurable, actually. It's really easy to use. The upright seating position allows you to sort of, not supermoto it, but you can lean into corners quite easily and you can counter steer it really easily. You've got a lot of leverage. The wind protection is good. The economy is pretty good as well. I mean, it just sort of does everything pretty good. It's just a versatile machine, which is what the idea is. I never felt myself needing lots more, but just a little bit more character would be nice. But it does everything surprisingly well. I think if it had less miles and it was a little bit less worn out, there would be literally nothing wrong with this bike at all. But there's nothing you really want to shout home about either. And I think that's sort of the point with these bikes. If you're going to use something every day, this is really great for that. Now what's nice about this bike that adventure bikes don't have is this is both 17-inch rims, which is nice because 17-inch rims tend to handle the nicest, and they've got the most normal tyre sizes. So we've got 160 at the rear here and a 120 up front. But I have done, again, more work at the rear on this bike. So if anyone knows anything about Versys, they should have this here a silver swing arm. This one is black. That is because it's from another Versys, because I had to replace it because the threads inside the swing arm, obviously this one is now okay, threads inside the old swing arm had completely been obliterated. So therefore I could no longer adjust the rear wheel alignment, which was obviously a problem because this chain would always slack. I also had to change the rear brake disc. I've also changed the chain and sprocket, which is on the other side. So a little bit of rust going around here. This bike does get used every single day without fail, come rain, shine or snow in some aspects. It has got a new DID chain which has made it miles better with the new swing arm, because now it doesn't loosen every other ride. That was very annoying. But again, more money I had to spend on the bike. And I don't know if you can see, this is kind of a review. I mean, this is a great bike. There's not much, everyone knows the Versys is a great bike, but I think this is more to the fact that high mileage bikes are not quite like high mileage cars. So, to summarize the Versys itself, I think it's a great bike. Actually, I think they handle well, I think they do everything they need to do, and for a daily commute, it is absolutely perfect. And I'd say if you have it as a daily commute and you want to ride every other Saturday, that's fine. But a high mileage Versys, I don't think so. I'm going to go into exactly why. So I think the bike is great itself. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, but because it's not that special, I don't think it's worth saving a little bit of money that you can save to get a high mileage one. I wanted to try it. I wanted to, because I like high mileage cars, I wanted to try a high mileage bike. And I think some certain high mileage bikes might make sense, but this isn't one of them. This, you know, it needed front forks to be rebuilt. It needed a new chain and sprocket. It needs new tyres pretty soon. You know, the engine's kind of over fueling a little bit. You know, there's problems here. The clutch is stiff. And the thing is with bikes that's not with cars, a car like a 5 Series is probably 40, 50 grand new, and you can buy one now for 3 grand. There's a huge amount of space there. This is 9 grand new, or thereabouts, and I spent £1 grand, and then I spent £1.5 grand probably fixing bits up. But if you're just using it every day, I think it's probably more worth just spending the £100 a month it is on a PCP agreement and just give it back after 3 years. Like, you're going to have a more pleasurable experience, you get to do whatever you need to do, and it's not that special that you care about keeping it, because it's just there to do a job. So I think that in bike terms, you've lost, what, a couple of grand? And I think it's worth it, because it's just easier, you have less maintenance, you don't have to work on it ever, it's going to be reliable, it's going to be easy. It's a lovely bike, it's great at doing everything, but it's not worth going down the high mileage route or going down all that sort of stuff. If it was a, you know, a once in a blue moon Kawasaki 250 RR, you know, that needle in a haystack kind of thing, yeah, okay, of course, because, you know, you can't get that anywhere else, and that's going to give you an experience that you just can't get. But this is very vanilla. There's a lot of bikes out there that do the same sort of job. You've got the NC 750s, it does it a little bit different. You've got the CB 500X. You've got obviously the Versys 650. You've then obviously go over to Suzuki, you've got the V-Strom. You've got all sorts of bikes that all offer the same thing, and they're not that expensive. You know, we're talking 10 grand, which 10 grand, brand new, you put it on finance, you stick £100 down a month, you're not thinking about it. You've got a brand new bike you don't have to worry about, and it's doing the job you want it to do. you're not in love with it. So I think that's where this just doesn't really make sense, and I don't think I'd ever do it again, anything high mileage of this sort. And that's what I thought I sort of wanted you to come away with from this video. Not that I think high mileage bikes are bad, I just don't think in a car terms, yeah, they're worth it. I mean, we've got a 520D with 200,000 miles. We've barely done anything to it since we've had it. It needed brakes, it needed this, but the car new was 40, 50 grand. So, you know, if I was to go out and buy a new one, I'm spending shitloads more money. Excuse my French. But this time, if I look at it as the tool it was, £100 a month, I would have rather had a new bike I didn't have to think about, and I just rode, than ride this bike, which, being high mileage, you know, the panels are vibey. You know, I've had to do all of this work to it. The clutch is extremely heavy and stiff because of the use of over years. So if it's not something that inspires you like this, it's just not worth having a high mileage bike about it. And this is a great bike, Versys is a great bike. It's just not needed to be high mileage. It's not worth the reward. So that's kind of the summary for the Versys 650. Great bike and a great tool, and you know, and it can be great fun, and you can do everything you need to do with it, but nothing special. But not everything has to be special. So we almost forgot, because of how boring it is, sorry, how vanilla it is, to do a sound clip of this bike, but we might as well do it. So here we go. Here's what a almost 50,000 mile Versys 650 sounds like. 180-degree parallel twin. What can I say? It does its job. So that summarizes it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked the bike content. We should have quite a lot more coming towards you soon. Till next time, please like, please subscribe, and don't buy high mileage Versys.